Countdown is on to tonight's Wilkes County Hall of Fame induction. Our pre-gala extravaganza is presented by Window World. time is almost here. The induction of the Wilkes County Hall of Fame class of 2021. Tonight's pre-gala extravaganza presented by Window World.
Our homes are extensions of who we are. New beginnings, first steps, moments lasting in time. Where an idea becomes a mission, hope becomes belief, and what was once unattainable finally reaches our grasp. For all the birthday wishes, Friday nights, and newfound friends, we'll be there. Window World, America's exterior remodeler. Improving homes, changing lives.
Good evening. My name is Mariana Bailey, and I am a senior at Wilkes Central High School. Tonight, we welcome you to the 2020 pre-gala show for the Hall of Fame. Tonight is a celebration of all the men and women who have made such an impact on Wilkes County. Individuals such as Irene Parsons, who held the highest position ever by a woman in the Veterans Administration. The Hall of Fame honors local school teachers, but also leaders of universities. Tonight is a very special night with lots of special guests as we count down to the induction ceremony. So let's get started on the red carpet.
Hello and welcome to the Red Carpet Pre-Show Gala. I'm your host, Hardin Kennedy. I go to Wilkes Early College High School and I'm a senior, and we're going to be talking to a couple of special guests tonight. Hello, my name is Hardin Kennedy, and welcome to the Wilkes County Hall of Fame Pre-Show Gala, and I am with
Cayman Smith
and Cesar Lamont.
These guys go to which school?
Wilkes Central High School.
Okay, and these guys play some sports. What sports do you guys play?
I play football and basketball.
And I play football and I run track.
Okay, what positions we got?
I play defensive end, tight end, left tackle.
I play defensive end, middle linebacker, outside linebacker, and tight end.
And we're back at the red carpet at the pre-show gala, and I have a previous inductee, Dr. Jim Brooks, and let's have a quick talk with him.
Good evening. I always enjoy the Hall of Fame induction ceremony because there's just so much to learn about Wilkes County history, and we hear about people that maybe we've heard their names and we've known them most of our lives, but we learn so many neat things about them and about Wilkes County history. Another thing I think that's really neat about the event is that proceeds from the event go to grants to local teachers, and I think that's a wonderful way to keep the legacy of the inductees alive for years to come.
That's really nice of you to say, Dr. Brooks. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I taught at West Wilkes High School for the past 36 years, teaching English and Latin.
And we've got a couple of little guests here today. What's y'all's name?
Owen. Nate McNeil.
All right, guys, what grade are you in?
Pre-K. First grade.
And where do you go to school?
In Middle Creek Institute. I don't know the west. I just only know Middle Creek. Middle Creek Elementary School.
Great to have you guys here tonight. I have Dr. Keith Bentley with me here, and we're going to ask him a couple questions.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
No problem. Dr. Bentley, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Be glad to. I'm a native of Wilkes County, and went to elementary and high school in Wilkes County, and I went to the University of North Carolina. Graduated from dental school and practiced dentistry in Wilkes County for 50 years.
All right, Dr. Bentley, could you tell us what it's like being a Hall of Fame inductee?
I'd be glad to. It's a great honor. When I look at the previous inductees down the hall here, like Leonard Herring, Carl Buchan, and some Dr. Hubbard, some of those names, it's very humbling to me, and I'm proud to be associated with them.
I'm sure it's a great honor. And we'll go back to Mariana.
It won't be too long until we meet tonight's 8 inductees for the Hall of Fame. They could be business leaders, such as the man who started Lowe's or the man behind Holly Farms. Both of these gentlemen represent leadership. One of the areas which the Hall of Fame has grown is the annual James Cook Leadership Breakfast. This is a training opportunity for middle and high school students. And now we go over to Pam Huffman, the principal at West Wilkes Middle School.
Hello, Olivia. Hey, Leland. How are you? Good. How are you? Good. So I understand you guys finished up with your Hall of Fame breakfast. Yes, we did. Well, why don't you talk to me a little bit about that and tell me some of the things that you learned?
Well, I mean, the James Cook breakfast was all about, leadership and, how to adjust to being a leader and, how to lead a group. So it was very enlightening because, they all had different stories about how to do that.
Well, I know that it was virtual this year. In the past, you've actually got to go down there and sit in a small group. But one thing I liked about the virtual was you got to hear lots of personal stories from them. Is there anything that stuck out particular from one individual that you liked?
Well, we did breakout rooms where we got to talk to someone, and we got to talk to Mr. Stevens. And he was very enlightening. He talked about how when he failed or, he made a mistake, he would go apologize. And, he humbled himself to that because it was his responsibility as a leader to, lead by example, because that's what a leader does.
He talked about how criticizing yourself, you're really going to be the person that criticizes yourself the most, even to other people.
So what can you take away from that back and bring it back with your 7 habits? Because we work a lot on leadership. Did you see any of those things that you can bring back into the 7 habits with you?
One of the biggest things was habit 6, synergize, working with other people, putting their needs before yours as a group and as individuals as well.
Absolutely.
The 7 habits is a lot about productivity. And they really talked about productivity and how you can work with your group and yourself and get everybody's opinion to be productive.
One thing that I had noticed in the presentation was that I thought there were a couple of folks that they actually mentioned how you would treat other people. Did you guys pick up on that?
Oh yes, they talked about how to gain respect from others. You have to give respect from others. And the same thing with trust, to gain trust from your members. You have to trust them in return.
Yeah, they talked about really taking in other people's opinions along with yours to be, like I said, productive.
Even in your ambassador positions, you guys have to give respect to your class in order to get respect.
Yes.
So, can you see yourself taking some of those examples that were given to you today back with you here at school or even on into your future?
Oh yes, I can definitely see that, yes.
Is there anything you want to share as far as your breakout session? How did that go?
Oh, it was wonderful. There was a lot of information to give and receive and, wonderful conversations.
Yeah, I really liked a lot of the questions that the people had for the Hall of Famers.
Well, I like the part right there that you said there were a lot of conversations. So it's not really like a lecture, and we love that. When I saw it, that was one of my favorite parts. Was it's not just a lecture, and I'm telling you all about me. There was a lot of interaction, so I know that engages you guys a lot more too, doesn't it? Yes. Okay. Well, you guys have a great day. I'm gonna let you go ahead and go on to class.
You too, Miss Huffman. Thank you.
This is something that we can use in our future. Okay. As you can see, these are 2 great examples of how the Hall of Fame can positively impact our students and the future. Thank you.
Here is the mission statement for the Wilkes County Hall of Fame. Someone who understands the importance of this mission is Mr. Mark Bird, Superintendent of Wilkes County Schools.
One of my favorite aspects of serving as Superintendent of Wilkes County Schools is to have the opportunity to be involved with the Wilkes County Hall of Fame. I'm excited for each of you to be a part of this year's ceremony, even if it is a bit different than in the past. I'm also very proud of the work of those who made this year's event extra special for our inductees, despite the numerous challenges they face. On behalf of Wilkes County Schools, let me congratulate all of our inductees and their families for this well-deserved recognition. True to the mission statement, the Wilkes County Hall of Fame not only works to recognize those for great accomplishments from the past,
but to also inspire the greatness in future generations. One of the most important successes of the Wilkes County Hall of Fame is what it does for the students in our school system. As I make sure to share each year, every penny raised by tonight's event is used to benefit the students of Wilkes County Schools. This is a very special year, as this year's grants to schools allow the Hall of Fame to exceed $100,000 in funds given to our school system. I hope this serves as a reminder that tonight's event is not only a special evening, but will provide opportunities to students in our county for many years to come. In closing, thank you for your support of the Wilkes County Hall of Fame and Wilkes County Schools. I hope you enjoy your evening, and I look forward to seeing all of you at a face-to-face Hall of Fame Gala in the very near future.
It's getting closer and closer to induction time. Who will those 8 members be? They could be leaders in entertainment, such as popular NASCAR drivers, Hollywood royalty, or musical stars. Now, let's see if the anticipation is building on the red carpet.
And we're back at the Red Carpet Pre-Show Gala, and I'm with Coach Logan Call, and he's going to tell us how Wilkes County Hall of Fame grants benefit athletics.
Yeah, Hardin, as I came through and looked behind us here, it says the mission of Wilkes County Hall of Fame is to promote and honor the excellence of the people in Wilkes County and to promote excellence in our student athletes and people in the community. And I don't think people realize what these Hall of Fame grants do for our schools and for athletics. As COVID hit, it was a very difficult time for our athletic programs, and without these Hall of Fame grants, I don't know how athletic programs, our athletic program will be able to survive. So it's been amazing what the grants have done for our athletic programs and for our athletes in our community in general.
That's great to hear. I'm glad that they're benefiting. And we've got a couple guests here tonight. And what are your guys' names?
My name's LeBron Man, and I'm from East Wilkes Middle School.
All right, how about you, little man?
Kilby, man.
All right. What are your hobbies, LeBron?
Just building PCs.
Did you see anything cool in that case back there, little man?
Yeah.
And we've got a couple guests here tonight. What are your names?
Sophia Call.
Carter Call.
Okay, and who are you guys here to look at?
The Kruger brothers.
The Kruger brothers.
Would you guys like to say hello to anybody at home tonight?
Miss Van Buskirk, my English teacher.
Mr. Weaver, my science and math teacher.
Good to have you guys. And we have another guest here tonight at the pre-show. What's your name?
Peyton McManus.
Hello, Miss McManus. Do you play any sports or anything?
I play volleyball, basketball, and softball.
Thank you for coming tonight. And we're back at the pre-show gala with another guest. What's your name?
Eden Call.
Okay, Miss Call. Where do you go to school at?
Mulberry Elementary.
And who are you supporting tonight?
The Cook family.
Thanks for coming tonight. And we're back at the Red Carpet Pre-Show Gala. I have a guest with us, Mr. Jeffrey Johnson. He works with the Wilkes County Cultural Arts Department, and he's going to tell us how the Wilkes County Hall of Fame grants influence his department.
This past year, the Hall of Fame grants allowed us to get $7,000 donated to different projects throughout the school system. I just wanted to say thank you. It was a great opportunity for our teachers to take a moment and apply for something and work for a little something extra for our students. And just greatly appreciate all the support that you all give to us. And again, it has really helped the arts and the music program here in the county. Thank you.
That is great. And we'll go back to Mariana.
Tonight, we want to take a moment to honor those who have meant so much to the Hall of Fame, who are no longer with us. The countdown is almost over, and we can't wait to meet the 8 new inductees of the Hall of Fame.
Hi, Mariana. Great to see you.
You as well.
Welcome to tonight's gala. Looks like you're at table number 1.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
A graduate of Wilkes Central, where he started in radio at 3WC, and today he owns and operates several stations in Cookeville, Tennessee. And he also works with several community boards and groups. Ladies and gentlemen, Larry Stone Jr.
Mariana, it's great to meet you.
You too.
Glad you're here for the Hall of Fame Induction 2020. I'm curious from you, before we start, this is such a special night. What does the Hall of Fame mean to you as a Wilkes County student?
To me, it's just so important to recognize and remember those who have made such a wonderful impact on our community, and I think it's a wonderful way to honor that and remember that.
We've had such an amazing group of inductees over the years. Now we're ready to meet this year's 8 newest members of the Wilkes County Hall of Fame.
Our homes are extensions of who we are. New beginnings, first steps, moments lasting in time, where an idea becomes a mission. Hope becomes belief, and what was once unattainable finally reaches our grasp. For all the birthday wishes, Friday nights, and newfound friends, we'll be there. Window World, America's exterior remodeler, improving homes, changing lives.
Tonight, the Wilkes County community gathers together to celebrate our heritage, our common experiences, and the leadership of some amazing people. These gatherings serve multiple purposes. First, we celebrate history. It's important to recognize the amazing people and the things that our collective community has achieved. It serves as a beacon for the young people of the Wilkes County school system. That young lady can dream to be whatever she wants to be, and that young boy can aspire to excel in any path he chooses. Living in a small town, not having the same experiences of someone that grows up in Raleigh or Charlotte, it doesn't have to be an excuse for what you can achieve. And then we say collective because for every business created here, for every teacher who taught, every scientist who dreamed, the artists, the singers, the dancers who created, they are the collective product of this county. The scout leaders, the aunts and uncles, the Sunday school leaders, teachers, coaches, each one of those people had a part in stoking the fire, fanning the flame, or maybe even in some cases kicking the butt of one of our Hall of Fame members. And in the last year, we understand even more the collective sacrifice. And so tonight as we begin, we honor the custodians and the food service team, the bus drivers, the healthcare workers in the school system, and of course all the teachers who have collectively sacrificed over the last year so many hours and days in trying to make sure that our kids could be educated. There's nothing that we can do to say thank you enough, but you kept these students engaged, you kept them mentally well, you allowed them to be supported emotionally, and of course, you helped them continue their education, and for that we say thank you. So tonight, a new class of Hall of Famers enter our pantheon of Wilkes County's collective history. They will inspire future students, and they will remind us the role that each of us plays in helping to build Hall of Famers. 30 years leading teenagers. For West Wilkes coach David Beck, it wasn't a job, it was a passion. Teaching the power of hard work, the power of teamwork. Every coach talks about that, but David Beck showed it. And it wasn't just in the games or on the sidelines. It was off the field. David Beck took the athletes of West Wilkes High School to talk to the elementary and middle school students all across the system, talking to them about the choices that they made. Beck moved back to Wilkes County in 1978, tutoring kids at Mount Pleasant and coaching at West Wilkes. He said he found a calling as a teacher, and so he went to Catawba College where he pursued a teaching degree. Little did he know that he would become synonymous with the Blackhawks athletic program.
Whether it was driving a bus, attending a game he didn't coach, buying equipment, or finding food, David Beck did everything he could to support the school's athletic programs, and he showed better than 30 classes at West Wilkes what it meant to be a Blackhawk, on the field and off.
Beck, he treats every aspect of his life the same way he did coaching or teaching. He's all in. If you need something, he's going to be there. He will sacrifice time from himself to help you out if you need it.
He's been important to a lot of people. I mean, and molded and shaped, enriched a lot of students' lives. And thinking about all the kids and the families that he's been intertwined with, you know, that says a lot.
As an accomplishment, I think it's just being a leader of these young men, you know, to be that father figure that a lot of these kids didn't have. There were many times when kids didn't have a parent for senior night, and he would walk out on the field with them, and it just made those kids nights.
He didn't treat anybody differently. He treated, like I said, it didn't matter if you were the most athletic or the least athletic. He didn't treat you any different. He pushed you to be the best you can do. He was always there to help you if you asked for anything or if he saw that you needed anything.
Teaching's not for everybody, and coaching definitely, you know, is a challenge. Being away from home, but I even think Tanya and the girls would tell you those sacrifices that was made from them and him being gone away from home and coaching at night and stuff, and would definitely paid off in the lives of so many others. You know, that's Coach Beck. I mean, that's the type of person that he is, and in my eyes always will be. I mean, good man.
Very thankful that Wilkes County notices the hard work and dedication that, you know, someone like him has put into our community. Even though he's no longer in the school system, he still, if somebody calls and needs something, he's going to help them. That's just the kind of person he is.
Coach Beck's a dear friend of mine. We've been through the highs and lows of things. When you're losing, everybody's against you, and when you're winning, everything's great, and everybody loves the winner. But you know, Coach Beck is the ultimate winner in my book, because he never changed his course as far as the belief in what he did, and the belief, you know, the ultimate win is getting these kids ready for life. And so I always respected that of Coach Beck.
We would now like to induct Dwight David Beck into the 2020 class of the Wilkes County Hall of Fame.
I'm very humbled to be inducted to the Wilkes County Hall of Fame. It is indeed an honor to be included with such a distinguished group. I would like to thank Wilkes County and also those who were responsible for my induction. This is truly a great honor. I was not born in Wilkes County, but it has become my home. I moved here in 1979 and never left. Moving to Wilkes County was the best decision in my life. I started a career, raised a family, and made some of the best friends a man could ever have. Moving away from home wasn't something that I planned. I went off to college after graduating from Tabor City High School. My father was a contractor, so I thought that after college I would come back and go into construction myself. I did, but it wasn't a good decision. A friend and I went in work together as subcontracting at Myrtle Beach. It didn't work out, and I needed to make a change. My lifelong friend, Charles Wright, called me and said he had an answer to my problem. He told me that there was a tutoring job at Mount Pleasant Elementary School and also a coaching job at West Wilkes High School. I told Charles that I didn't think I was qualified to be a teacher or coach. It's something I never considered. But he convinced me to come and set up an interview with Robert Hartzog at Mount Pleasant Elementary and also with Mike Stewart at West Wilkes High School. Again, that was a good decision. I got hired at both places, and that's how my life began in Wilkes County, and that's where I became Coach Beck. Once I began teaching and coaching, I discovered I was pretty good at it. I loved it. I enjoyed working with the kids in the classroom and on the playing fields. To see how kids responded and improved through your guidance was exciting. I also went through a learning process myself, learning sometimes as much as the kids did. Teaching and coaching is such a rewarding profession, and to be called coach is a privilege. One of my first lessons in the learning process was how kids looked up to teachers and coaches. I had a student at Mount Pleasant Elementary who was pretty much driving me crazy. He didn't want to follow the instructions. He disrupted my class, and I didn't know what to do, didn't know how to handle the situation. And then we had a teacher-parent open house at Mount Pleasant one night, and this young man's mother came. Well, I thought, this meeting is not going to end well. And before I could start talking and telling her how disruptive he was in my class, she started talking. And she said, so you are the wonderful Coach Beck. My kid talks about you all the time. He just loves your class. I am so glad to meet you. Well, what was I to say then, except thank you for coming. I look forward to working with your son, and I learned a lesson that day, that sometimes kids behave in certain ways, and sometimes we need to try to find out what those are. I took a different attitude toward him and a different approach. He responded in a positive way. His behavior got better. He became a good student, and I became a better teacher. Coaching is another form of teaching. It is also about working with kids, forming relationships, getting the best out of what they have to offer. Through that process, you build lifelong relationships. When you treat players and students with respect and let them know that you care for them and what they say has some meaning, you have a chance to make a difference in their lives. It was always one of my best rewards to have former players and students to come back to West and just say hello, how they miss school and how they miss playing sports. In the coaching setting, just as in the classroom setting, we have chances to learn lessons of our own. One day, years ago, while running a defensive practice, Coach Langford and I were putting in a new defense. In this defense, in the front, the nose guard had to line up in a head-up position. And that means he's supposed to be directly in front of the offensive center. Well, this young man was lined up to the left. So we said, without calling his name, get head up. He didn't move. So again we said, get head up. He still didn't move. Well, by now, being Coach Beck, I was getting a little upset, so I yelled pretty loud, "Get head up." Well, he still didn't move, but he said, "Coach Beck, it won't go any higher." Well, I realized then that it wasn't what he was doing wrong. It was the fact that I hadn't done a very good job of communicating. So I looked over at Coach Langford and said, "Failure to communicate." And we laughed. We fixed the problem and learned a lesson of our own. Be more specific. Make sure your players understand what you're talking about. I have so many fond memories of coaching. Through the years, I've coached several sports. At West Wilkes, I coached football, basketball, tennis, and track. I coached softball and basketball at Mount Pleasant, and I also had the opportunity to coach football at Catawba College for 2 years as a student coach. Coaching was my passion. I remembered how I looked up to my coaches growing up and the respect I had for them. That's why I worked so hard to earn the respect of my players. Unlike most coaches, I spent my entire career at West Wilkes High School, 35 years to be exact. I loved every minute of it. I took a great pride in being a Blackhawk. It was my responsibility to prepare fields and gyms for play. Making our facilities look great was my duty, and I made sure we looked the part. Football, baseball, softball, track, anything that needed lines got straight ones. Gym floors cleaned, mopped, nothing but the best for the Blackhawks. I think if you would have cut me, I probably would have bled black and orange. Go Hawks. Sometimes things happen in your life for a reason. I was always told that God has a plan for everyone. Mine was coaching and teaching. I thank the good Lord for guiding me in that direction. To end, I would like to again thank Wilkes County for giving me the opportunity to become a teacher and a coach. Also to my wife and my daughters, Mallory and Morgan, for their support and understanding. Coaching was my life, and being recognized by the Wilkes County Hall of Fame is more than I ever dreamed of. Thank you.
One of 11 children who grew up along the Reddy's River, Andrew Kilby came flying from the farm into a world-changing technology. The Model T not only brought the assembly line productivity to America, it brought the ability to get anywhere from anywhere. And Wilkes County, North Carolina saw this creation thanks to Andrew Kilby. Mr. Kilby took his job at the giant lumber company where he learned the art of business. Then he took a family loan and created Yadkin Valley Motors. Money scarce, you could even trade a cow or a horse to get a Model T. Mr. Kilby believed in the power of family too, and so since its beginning, Yadkin Valley Motors has been a dealership built on family.
The Ford Motor Company shipped Model Ts on railroad cars to North Wilkesboro.
The car assembly had to be put together, and it wasn't just the Ford.
You could buy a Buick, an Overland, an Indiana truck, and a Ford tractor from our great-great-grandfather, Andrew Kilby.
Well, my grandfather that's being honored, Andrew Franklin Kilby, was born in September 1886 in a log cabin on the Reddish River.
He was truly the patriarch of the family. We all referred to him as Papa. He was always there for us. We grew up, all the cousins grew up within a mile of their house, and we were down there spending time with them all the time.
He worked for the giant lumber company that had the flume that floated logs cut lumber down the Reddish River in the early 1900s. He was evidently smart enough that they made him the payroll clerk, and he ran the company store for the giant lumber company. The flood washed the flume away from a hurricane in 1916, so he was without a job.
Served in World War I, came back, got in the car business, eventually became owner of Yadkin Valley Motor Company, married my grandmother. But the thing that always impressed me about my grandfather is, he was accomplished in business, but the thing that impressed me the most was what he did for the community.
Was involved in building the hospital, the grading of the initial site where the Wilkes General was built. He was on the board for about 20 years. He also was involved in building the first YMCA. In World War I, he built bridges in France. I assume that set the stage for his future in construction type volunteer work that he did.
He loved giving back to the community. He was on the board of the North Wilkesboro Savings and Loan. It was not uncommon that any of his grandchildren or his children would have somebody come up to us and say, you know, your grandfather was responsible for me getting my first home loan or was instrumental in me becoming a homeowner. And he did these things because he cared for the community and he invested a lot of his time and energy in giving back to the community. When you look at the organizations that he was involved in and the way that he was involved, and there was more than that, there was First Baptist Church, there was Kiwanis, organizations that he invested a whole lot of time. And I think that investment made Wilkes County a better place to live and raise a family.
We would now like to induct Andrew Franklin Kilby into the 2020 class of the Wilkes County Hall of Fame. Accepting this honor on his behalf is his grandson, Andrew Mayberry.
Thank you. Does anybody recognize this guy? This is Andrew Franklin Kilby. If in any time in recent history you've been to the lobby of the hospital, you've seen that same portrait. The family is pleased and thankful that the Ed Foundation and the Hall of Fame committee accepted our nomination of Andrew Franklin Kilby. We referred to him as Papa Kilby. It was submitted, I did the application, but it was submitted on behalf of all 7 grandchildren. And I'd like to give you their names, chronological order. Andrew L. Bud Kilby of Mount Airy, myself, Andrew M. Mayberry, John Asbury Kilby of North Wilkesboro, Jan M. Huggins of Wilkesboro, Betty Kilby of Wilkesboro, Franklin Lott Mayberry of Boone, and John Samuel Mayberry of North Wilkesboro. The important part there is 5 of the 7 still reside here in Wilkes County. I'd especially like to thank my sister Jan Huggins for the research she did and for encouraging me to submit this application. I learned a lot of things during this process about my grandfather that I was not aware of. Papa Kilby was a builder. The theme, the thread that ran through his life was building. His first job was with the Giant Lumber Company, lumber materials. He enlisted in the Army in 1918 to fight in World War I at the age of 32. In today's numbers, that would have probably been mid-40s. While in the Army, he supervised a logging crew in the Swiss Alps that were cutting lumber for bridges and bunkers. After World War I, he came back to North Wilkesboro, started work at Yadkin Valley Motor Company. He began as a clerk. Over time, he gained interest and eventually became the principal shareholder in the business. That business now has the 4th generation of Kilbys working there. More important, though, than his accomplishments in business are the things that he did for this community. And that's the primary reason that we submitted this application. I want to give you 3 examples, the first being the YMCA. The first YMCA that was built here, Papa Kilby was the chairman of the building committee. Every one of those grandkids learned to swim in the pool at that Y. The second item, Wilkes General Hospital. When Dr. Hubbard decided to close his private hospital in North Wilkesboro and build a public hospital, Papa Kilby was his choice as supervisor of the building committee. He was also chairman of the committee during the first expansion of Wilkes Hospital. The final one, which may have gone unnoticed, but to me is equally important, he helped found and sat on the board of the North Wilkesboro Savings and Loan for many years. They provided money for people to build homes. My sister Jan had someone approach her recently and said, I remember that your grandfather approved my first loan for my first house. That's important. My mother told me stories about how at times in the summer months when she was a little girl, Papa would come home, eat a quick lunch, and take her and Uncle Bud down to the river to watch them build one of the bridges across the Yadkin. Building was something that intrigued him and it was important to him. The message that we want to leave with this application is that Papa Kilby did this work to improve the community. He didn't do it for personal monetary gain. He did it because it made the community better. So again, I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame Committee, the Ed Foundation, for accepting this nomination, and it gives us satisfaction knowing that his story will be kept for posterity here at the Hall of Fame. Thank you.
The power of education. John Idle could not have afforded it had it not been for a local man who said, go get that college degree. His soon-to-be wife, Etta, was the only graduate of Mount Pleasant to go on to a 4-year school. When World War II ended, John Idle returned from a stint in the Army to begin his teaching career. His partner, Etta, shared his love of young people and a deep understanding of the power of education. She said it came from winning the school spelling bee. She won a sheep named Big Boy for her efforts. From Deep Gap to Mount Pleasant to Millers Creek High School, John Idle helped transition the schools of the 1950s into the consolidated system that we see today. In fact, he served as an assistant superintendent. Etta Idle taught chemistry to so many students. And then John Idle, with help from Etta, got to work on developing the next step for education in the Wilkes County Schools.
John Idle was part of the team who created the application for Wilkes Community College. He would serve as a leader in student services for the college and trustee until his retirement. He did not do this work alone.
His wife Etta took her degrees from Appalachian State and got to work in the local schools, where she became Wilkes County's first teacher of the year.
I have the pleasure and the honor of knowing Etta Lee Idle and John Idle my entire life. I don't think I've ever seen two people who loved each other more in terms of education. They were such believers in the importance of education, but most of all, they believed in young people.
I think it's especially unique that they were together or being recognized together because they really were a strong force as a team. I would say they left an impression that's second to none for this county in terms of education.
They were always a team. When you saw one, you saw the other. They worked together. They were involved in community events as well as school activities and could be seen together on most all occasions.
John Idle was Assistant Superintendent of Schools in Wilkes County, and then he went on to be a Vice President at the Community College. Actually, he helped start the Community College here.
You know, he'd never met a stranger. You could be in line anywhere, and by the end of the time you were standing in line, he had a familiarity with that person next to him. It was always a conversation like, you know, do I know you? And someone would say no, and then they would all of a sudden he would ask, well, who do you know? And next thing you know, before the end, they were friends, and he was friends with everyone and could find that.
Mr. Idle was also a promoter, an encourager, a guide, and he was a storyteller. He always had a pleasant story to tell or to quote poetry. Very scholarly gentleman and one who wanted the very best for each of us.
I was at West Wilkes as a student, and one of the best days was when he came to speak to the student body because he would have a wonderful story and he was captivating. He had our attention 100%. And always the stories were funny, but they had an important meaning to them. And Etta Lee, in her 35 years as a teacher in the school district, she probably taught between 3,000 and 4,000 students. So she had a profound impact. She was an amazing teacher, total command of the subject matter. She taught both biology and chemistry. And she was also the first teacher of the year in Wilkes County.
She was always pushing people to be better, educated generations to bring out the best and inspire them to be better, really.
Certainly, Mrs. Idle was an outstanding teacher, a very loving spirit and a desire for students to do their very best. And in turn, we tried to do the best that we could so that we wouldn't disappoint her.
When I go and see familiar faces around the area, the conversation doesn't revolve around what am I doing or what's your family doing. It's always around, well, I love your grandparents, or your grandparents were so great. You know, they were tough, but great. And they would always have a story about how she was the toughest teacher they ever had, but they respected her for that, and she brought out the best in them.
They wanted us to be successful, and they had the right amount of humor and insistence that you do your best, and they lovingly would accept no less. She could have taught at the college level, and he could have been president of any college or university, but they chose to be here in Wilkes County and to make a difference with the students here. And I think for any young person, you know, there's a lot of ways you can make a difference, but if you truly want to make a difference with youth, being a teacher and being passionate about it and having not only the passion for your subject matter, but real compassion and respect for students, that makes more of a difference than anything.
We would now like to induct John and Etta Idle into the Wilkes County Hall of Fame class of 2020. Accepting this honor on behalf of her parents is Sharon Idle Oxford.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
On behalf of my parents, John and Etta Idle, I would like to thank the committee for selecting them to receive the Wilkes County Hall of Fame as a couple in the field of education. From the display, anyone can see the many accolades they received for their hard work. My parents believed in the transformative power of education. They both had a tremendous zest for life and a can-do attitude. We know why and how they got this award. So I'm going to tell you a little personal story of Mr. and Mrs. Idle. Here's a short story how they got there with their dreams and goals together. They were a couple that supported each other in the meaning of the word support. From Daddy pushing the grocery cart to Mother tossing out hay on the farm to feed cattle, it was an interchange of duties. Two cute childhood experiences gave them confidence that education had rewards. Daddy won a $5 gold piece writing a poem in 6th grade about milking his cow. Mother was the spelling bee champion of her school in 7th grade and won a lamb that she kept until she went to college. So knowing they could get money and wool, education became very important. Daddy, Mr. Idle, saw the need for higher education early in his young life when his father passed away, leaving a young, uneducated mother with 6 children. The year was 1931. There was no income, no insurance, no support system of welfare or Social Security. The 3 older ones had to leave home to work for their upkeep. The younger ones turned to their 14-year-old brother, my father, for support. This was my father who was determined the 3 could at best get a high school education, and they did. He wanted even more, but he knew it would be a struggle because of poverty. He applied to Berea College in Kentucky, where he could work his way through school. But the founder and the president of a small mountain school, Appalachian State Teachers College, had heard from his high school teachers about this young scholar that was bright but very impoverished. He called him in, helped him, and personally paid his tuition until Daddy could repay him some years later. Now here comes Mother. She graduated from Mount Pleasant High School at the young age of 15, and she too had applied to Berea, but was reared by a lovely couple in the community who wanted her to stay near home. Not only did Mr. and Mrs. Doc Shepard provide her with a home, but they were determined to educate her as well. So she went off to Women's College, the only school in the area that would take a 15-year-old girl in Greensboro. 2 years later, Mr. Shepherd knew she could transfer to Appalachian, and happily she did as a 17-year-old student. Mother's first day at Appalachian was the day a tall, gangly young man drove by with a group of boys to find the new girl in town. Well, my future father gazed on the porch of the house where she was sitting and said, "Look at that girl in the green dress. That's my date and my wife." And sure enough, just 2 years later, at the age of 19, she became Mrs. Idle. Well, fast forward, World War II, 2 children, successful education careers, grandchildren, and new experiences. Daddy and Mother were proud of Wilkes County, frequently inviting guests to come visit. No one station in life kept them from getting an invitation to our home. But this last story still makes me laugh some 44 years later. It was 1977. We were living in Washington, D.C., and I asked a friend of mine that worked at the White House to get my parents a special tour. She did, so off we went. As they were walking around the inter-offices, who should appear but Vice President Walter Mondale. Daddy immediately stopped him and said, and I quote, "Sonny boy, you're doing a good job for the country. I am John V. Idle from the great state of Wilkes County, North Carolina, God's country, and I want you to come see us. We will give you a bag of apples from the Brushy Mountains." Needless to say, the tour group was taken back. It was not the norm for anyone to speak to the Vice President of our country, much less stop him. But Mr. Mondale was most gracious and appeared absolutely charmed. Well, the story continues. In 2004, my husband and I were on vacation, and on an elevator, who should join us but Vice President and Mrs. Mondale. I couldn't resist. I said, "Mr. Vice President, you were so gracious to my dad many years ago when he invited you to our home, the great state of Wilkes, North Carolina. I know it was out of normalcy, but he was so excited to meet you. He graciously acknowledged me." And I thought, well, surely he didn't remember the event. But as we got off the elevator, he smiled and said, "I never got my apples." So with that, I want to close and tell you, spread the good word about our county. As my father used to say, we do live in God's country. There's so much to be proud of here. We have our own college, fine people, talented musicians, dedicated teachers, and natural resources envied by others. We can connect and share and remember to love and celebrate each other and the many talents. And who knows, you might get a bag of apples from the Brushy Mountains. Thank you.
He said that he considers himself a documentarian. It began at the age of 12 when he received a paint set and brushes for Christmas. Ward Nichols spent the next 2 weeks copying a photo of a horse, and he said he did it with amazing detail, something that became a hallmark of all of Ward Nichols' work. As for that documentary title, Nichols says he came along at a time when so many of the barns and structures of the county were going away, the century's early days fading away. He says that he feels like he saved that. Because of the love of detail, we see the detail of those barns and structures. And he didn't even grow up around barns. But when he saw them, Ward Nichols said it was where he wanted to be.
Ward Nichols said his favorite thing to paint are clouds. A cloud offers the painter freedom. It can be any shape you want. The painter's in control. He controlled his work throughout his entire career. In the studio by 8:30 a.m., a half hour for lunch, then painting to 7 p.m.
Well, Ward was born in the coal country of West Virginia, but Wilkes County is really his home. From the minute he came here, he was embraced by the community, especially the artistic community, and he's told the visual history of our county through his artwork.
One of the things he said when he moved to Wilkes, that he loved all the beautiful greenery. Here it was more lush and more colors and beautiful, and you can see the mountains from a distance and not just be on top of a mountain or in the edge of a mountain. One of the things he likes to do is documentary paintings, like of old homes, old barns, things that you probably don't see today even, because they have disappeared.
You know, painting a scene of Wilkes County is as telling as writing a poem about it. And he does that, and every one of his paintings has a story. And he chronicled Wilkes County scenery, barns and houses, you name it, which makes him kind of a painter laureate of Wilkes County.
I don't believe the Wilkes Art Gallery would be here or be what it is today without Ward Nichols' contributions and presence.
He was a major driver of keeping the gallery afloat for many, many years because his shows were so successful. I mean, he'd have a show and people would buy paintings, and that would help the gallery financially.
When we had his exhibits, it helped us keep our doors open for the rest of the year because people come from all over to buy his paintings. He has collectors still today that will drive from Pennsylvania or Virginia or Georgia and buy his paintings. And we always sold, 15 or 20 paintings. So he has collectors today. I mean, he is known really all over the world.
He treats painting as his profession. He goes into his studio at 8 o'clock every morning and he paints until 5 o'clock every afternoon, taking a lunch break. And I think that has helped Ward maintain his lasting presence in the art world. And also, I think it's created to his longevity and his ability to keep painting. There's something about every one of his paintings and every one of his subjects that is a personal fascination for him. And that's what he then translates into his paintings.
And most painters paint what sells, but if you're true to your art, you need to paint what floats your boat. And he does that from time to time.
My first impression of Ward was he was very quiet, he's very private, but he's not like that at all. He's very friendly, and he loves people, and he likes to talk, and he's fun to be around. Ward's probably one of my best friends, and I enjoy spending time with him as much as I do a girlfriend of mine. He's definitely a person that I am proud to know and honored that I am one of his friends.
Spending time with him is a gift, and him being a part of Wilkes County is definitely a treasure and a gift for Wilkes County.
We would now like to induct Ward H. Nichols into the 2020 class of the Wilkes County Hall of Fame.
Will we shake hands? Or is it elbow?
Here's your award.
Oh.
You want to hold on to that?
All right.
Take your mask.
That's beautiful. No.
Pose for pictures.
Okay.
Congratulations.
You know, it's a dangerous thing to ask an artist to speak. I never realized until I quit work and went into art full time what a lonesome profession that is. It's I'm by myself 24 hours a day in the studio working by myself, and my only companion is a cat, a very poor conversationalist. But you have no fellow workers. You have nobody to share anything with. It's strictly a one-on-one situation. So when you ask an artist to speak, he's all wound up. He's got all this inside of him that he's just raring to let out. So it's just so no telling what I'm going to say. But just to start with things, I was born in West Virginia, in Welch, West Virginia, July the 5th, 1930. I've always had problems since my birth with health issues. I would catch everything that came along. And this was back in the 30s, and a lot was coming along. And I was always sick. I was a very sickly child. And I spent a lot of time in bed. And this was before TV, so you had to entertain yourself. My mother gave me a pencil and paper and said, "Here." And that's what I did to entertain myself. It started me drawing. I guess from the age I was about 6, that was my entertainment. I'd read the comic books, comic strips, and they weren't doing what I wanted them to, so I created my own. And that got me started, and I just never did stop. That I continued to draw in school when I should have been doing other things. My mind was always wandering somewhere, and I was always drawing. I was a poor student, I'm afraid, and I apologize now, but I was just always somewhere else. I was there in class, but my mind was always someplace else. And I realized this when it came college time, that if it hadn't been for the posters I made for my teachers, I'm not even sure I would have failed, would have passed. Because I was making posters for National Book Week to everything else. And it kept me busy. And it kept the teachers dependent on me, and that helped a lot with my grades. But after graduation, well, I will say in high school, we had no art classes, none at all. There was a class called Mechanical Drawing, which was sort of a draftsman kind of program. And I enrolled with that program, and it's been a big influence ever since. That it taught me perspective and all the finer points of drafting. So came graduation, I thought drafting was the way to go. I enjoyed it. It was making good grades. And the Navy had what was considered the world's best drafting school in San Diego, California. So I enlisted in the Navy to be sent to this drafting school. I was sent to Great Lakes Naval Training Center for basic training. They called me to the office one day and said, "Ward, what else do you want to do for 4 years?" They closed the drafting school in San Diego. So I took an aptitude test to see what I was most suited for. And I felt that it would be bookkeeping or something along that line, and it was. So I never did get to drafting school. And I was assigned to a destroyer out of Charleston, South Carolina, was my home base. And I'm thankful now that it was a smaller size ship, and we got to travel all over the world, and I mean all over the world. I got a travel bug, and I still have it. But after floating around on the ocean for so many years, I applied for shore duty, and they gave me an assignment to be on the personal staff of Admiral William Carney, who represented the United States during the forming of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. It was just being formed. Naples, Italy was its headquarters, and I was on his staff. Ideal duty. And being just formed, they had no insignia or no shoulder patch to wear on their shoulders to show that they were a member of NATO. So I designed a couple of patches that were accepted, and that's what they're wearing today. Was designed to designate them as members of NATO. After the Navy, I went to work for my dad in Welch, West Virginia. He's a printer and an office supply. I was supposed to be a printer and was being trained to be a printer. So anyway, I married a wonderful lady. We had 3 children, 3 boys, David, Stephen, Michael. And they went their way, and anyway, I've continued to keep my drawing at hand all the time. And I was trying to look for a break or something that would happen that would give me some financial return. And I subscribed to American Artist magazine that had a listing of all the exhibits in the United States and who was qualified to enter them. There was no point, and I've learned this lesson, there's no point in asking your family for their advice because they don't know and they're going to flatter you and everything you do is going to be wonderful. And I thought the best thing to do would enter these art competitions and see how you rate. And I would enter 12, 14 a year. And I went 7 years, was never rejected. And that gave me confidence. I started entering shows in New York City, and that opened a lot of doors for me. And there's a little gallery up in Amherst, Massachusetts that invited me up there to exhibit. I said yes. It was a good opportunity to get someplace else, get away from West Virginia, and to see how I rank with other artists. And they sort of took me under their wing and promoted me. And it opened all kinds of doors in New York City and Massachusetts and New England area where they like conservative art, believe it or not. And they'd like to know what they're looking at. And that's right up my alley. And with that one show opening in Amherst, Massachusetts, doors beginning to open for me, and I got invitations. And now I've got more invitations than I can handle. But thank goodness for all the people that supported me along the way. And I would like to thank everybody here that supports our wonderful gallery here in town. When I came to North Wilkesboro in 1970, there was no art gallery. Annie Winkler was using her living room, open to the public, for an exhibit space. And bless her heart, I owe her so much that she served as my guide, introduced me to Wilkes County, a lot of back roads I would have never found. We dodged under a lot of no trespassing signs because she taught their children. She knew that family. Well, I would be afraid to go on my own. But she told me wonderful stories about Wilkes and the people. And I asked her one time, I said, Annie, are all these stories true? And she said, well, I'm inclined to embellish a little bit, but basically they're all true. And I fell in love with Wilkes County. I've taken advantage of every opportunity to exhibit. I've been in over 230 one-man exhibits in 26 different states. And I could add to it, but I just feel like at my age, 90, at my age that I'm sort of limited in the number I can do. The exhibit here at the art gallery is that every 2 years I have an exhibit. It's a major exhibit because of the size of the gallery. To have a one-man show there, you have to have at least 50 paintings to fill that gallery. When you think of your output, might be a good year would be 15 paintings that year. So it takes at least 2 good years to fill that gallery. And I've slowed down some. And this coming exhibit in October probably might be my last one-man show. I hope to have exhibits there that in joint with somebody else to fill that gallery. But I owe that gallery so much, and Annie Winkler so much, that any talk about career would call for me giving more attention to the Wilkes Art Gallery and Annie Winkler. Annie Winkler, who founded that gallery from her living room, was a go-getter. And the first time I came down here, my first wife is from North Wilkesboro. And I would come down here visiting her people. And occasionally I'd run into an art exhibit being at Rose's parking lot or somewhere. And there's this rather tall, gray-haired lady that seemed to be in charge of everything. And when I thought about leaving West Virginia, I thought about North Wilkesboro and that gray-haired lady that was so in charge of everything. So I drove down here. I went to the bowling alley and said, do you know a gray-haired, rather tall lady that's just in charge of everything? And they said, you got to be talking about Annie Winkler. And I said, well, I don't know her name. I'll look her up in the phone book, and I did. And we had a long conversation. She welcomed me with open arms and became my self-appointed guide for Wilkes County. And now I figure I know the back roads of Wilkes County pretty well, although I still take roads I've never been on before and have no idea where I'm going or how I'm going to get back. People will see a painting I do of a house, they'll ask where it is. I say, I had no idea. I was lost when I painted it. And it's very true. But I'm glad to be here. I'm so proud of this Hall of Fame that I just am so thankful for the wonderful chance that I've had to come here and to make the most of it. And it's a great place to be, and I feel very fortunate. Thank you so much for this award. I'll be able to get this.
Tonight's Hall of Fame induction ceremony continues. We wanted to give you some insight as to where your money goes. We all talk about raising money for grants, but what exactly do these grants do? How do they impact students across Wilkes County? Here's some idea on how our students and teachers are benefiting from your generosity.
We had students that wanted to learn to play the piano for their graduation project. So I thought, well, maybe if we offered a keyboard lab here at the school, we might have students that would want to participate in that. So our principal at the time was Dr. Jody Weatherman. She and I got together and we through the curriculum people at the central office, we made it happen. I applied for the Wilkes Hall of Fame grant, which was super easy. It's just a matter of answering the questions and giving the information that they're looking for on the application. I was able to get some money to purchase some keyboards here for the lab, and that's kind of how we got started. We initially purchased 10 keyboards, and since then we have purchased 2 more. My classes were completely full, before COVID, but we have been full about every semester since we've offered the piano lab. And at the beginning I was hoping if I could just have 5 students, then I could build from there. But the interest level in that first semester that I offered it was actually 30 students. So that was super exciting. I've been super blessed that every time I have asked for funds from them, I've gotten just a little bit for various projects that I've done. So I'm excited about all of the opportunities that they've given me here at the school to do things that I couldn't normally do without the grant money that they've given.
When I decided to write the grant, we have received grants in the past too to help with the drama club production, to purchase costumes, set pieces, things like that to really help with the production, because it does cost a lot of money for us to do this. So the grant is always a welcome and very helpful thing for us to be able to do it. This is actually a tradition here at our school. We do an annual drama club production. This is actually going to be our 15th production since I've been at West Wilkes Middle School. I chose Alice in Wonderland this year because of the COVID restrictions. I knew that we were going to have to do something different, and we were going to not be able to do it normally the way that we have done in the past. So I thought Alice in Wonderland would be a really good option, and I knew that the kids that I had, and I thought that it just really would fit them. I would just like to say thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to receive the grant, and I did receive the grant last year too for the Mulan production, and it's just always been a really, really big help for me to say, hey guys, we got this much money to help us buy costumes, and it's just been able to make our production a little bit better.
Our coverage continues thanks to Wilkes Communications and River Street Productions. We could not have made tonight's virtual celebration possible without their hard work. Thank you to Wilkes Communications and River Street Productions.
Wilkes Communications is North Carolina's premier high-speed internet provider. With a reliable fiber-to-the-home network, work, learn, and play without worrying about frustrating slowdowns or waiting for videos to buffer. Get your local connection to fast internet for your home or business today, all from a hometown company you can trust. Learn more at wilkes.net.
The Wilkes County Hall of Fame Governing Board would like to recognize and acknowledge the contributions made by our 4 board members that are rotating off over the last preceding year. Ricky Barger, 2015 to 2020. Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Francis Tharp, 2017 to 2021. Thank you, Dr. Tharp. Chris Scabo, 2013 to 2019. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
And in memory of Sylvia Robinson, 2019 to 2020, accepting on her behalf board members Bill Harris and Delana Jones.
Cultivating community and finding the seeds to help it grow. That's been the mantra of Dennis Huggins, whether it's finding support for the growing of tourism and better health in our community through the Yadkin River Greenway, or understanding the power of Wilkes County's rich history to teach future generations at the Wilkes Heritage Museum. Huggins saw the power of bringing dollars and support and energy to development. The passion soon expanded to his role as Director of Development for the Wilkes County Schools, bringing his experiences to aid the team that helped create the Wilkes County Hall of Fame.
From Tabor City to East Carolina to a career at Lowe's, Dennis Huggins has tried to understand how leaders work and what the keys are to success. He has turned that into a long career of crafting the resources needed to help others through learning.
One of the biggest things that comes to my mind when I think about who is Dennis Huggins and about he and his family embraced Wilkes County, the communities of Wilkes County, and become very active in learning all they could learn about the community. And from that point forward, starting in 1990, it's just miraculous what Dennis has helped to develop throughout the communities in Wilkes County.
Dennis coming into Wilkes County, he originated through Lowe's companies. He moved into the school system, and when he moved into the school system, he has accomplished so many things there through facilitation improvement, new programs such as youth leadership and T3LC, which is a philanthropy program.
T3LC program of youngsters learning to be benevolent and be philanthropists, and as a fundraiser, he's unequaled. In his 13 and a half years, he raised $15 million for Wilkes County Schools.
I think our youth today are looking for mentors who make a difference. People who aren't only talk about projects or talk about initiatives, but people who are actually doers. It's really, really important to have those doers in our society so that our children and our students can see, you're not just talk, you're making things happen. And that's what Dennis Huggins has done. He's one of those people who doesn't mind getting in. If he makes a mistake, that's okay. He learns from it. He's been one of those that kids look up to and say, yeah, Dennis will make this happen, or Dennis knows people who can make it happen. And that's so huge this day and time, because you hear a lot of talk, but you don't see a lot of action in many things, but he's one of those action people.
There's a lot here in Wilkes that I think that he realized that he could resonate with. Coming here and immediately embracing Wilkes County and wanting to be a part of it.
There's a great partnership there. Jan and Dennis together, they're inseparable and they complement one another. And I'm quite amazed to see the synergy that comes out of that marriage and that relationship. So Dennis is, his life is blessed and enhanced because of the influence of Jan.
And he and Jan have been involved, extremely involved in their community, in their church, and everything around them. So why would you want to leave where your life is? And that's where their life is here.
We would now like to induct Dennis Huggins into the 2020 class of the Wilkes County Hall of Fame.
First, let me say thank you to the Wilkes County Hall of Fame Governing Board. I am humbled by this recognition. I have been very blessed over my life, and this is truly one of the highlights. I am thankful to Gary York for nominating me for the Hall of Fame and appreciate the many letters of support sent in my behalf. I was fortunate to be raised in a Christian home with parents who instilled many character traits like humility, honesty, hard work, and getting an education. I am grateful to have a supportive family. My wife, Jan, 2 children, 2 older brothers who were tremendous role models for me. I am thankful to have many friends who supported me and my projects at Lowe's, the Yadkin River Greenway, the Wilkes Heritage Museum, and the Wilkes County Board of Education. In closing, I have always believed that no matter which community I live in, I've tried to make a difference and make it better for future generations. I also believe being involved in church, community projects like building student study desks and food pantries, and the Chamber of Commerce and nonprofits who benefit others in need. I challenge you to volunteer and go out of the way to help others in need or with less experience than yourself. Keep in touch with your community. Find a project and be kind to everyone. Wilkes has so many natural resources, walking trails, and quality of life that it makes a great place to live, work, raise children, and play. I am honored to call Wilkes my home. Thank you.
How many thousands of ball players across Wilkes County over the years have played in uniforms that came from Cook's and the able hands of James Cook? How many hundreds of ball players across Wilkes County wore that uniform or game equipment that they could not afford and never knew that James Cook was the one that made that happen? That was Mr. Cook's way. So was living life. James Cook believed in exploring all the world and all that it had to offer, from working on his bike to traveling through music to traveling across our nation. He brought those experiences back to Wilkes County, where he really focused on making sure that the young people here had a better life. The spirit and teamwork of sports, the competitive fire that you need to achieve.
More than 200 schools across the region were served by Cook's Sporting Goods. The store began when my grandfather, Mr. Cook, was a child. He came back to Wilkes after college, working alongside his father. In 1974, the store moved to West Park Shopping Center, where it continues in James Cook's vision today.
James never forgot his roots and where that store started, because that's where it was built. It was built in this community, and the 4 Wilkes high schools. And then as the business got bigger, reaching out to other high schools across the state, and then even the colleges like Appalachian. I think Appalachian realized that the service that his company provided and under his leadership was second to none.
They were so accommodating, and football coaches sometimes are not totally organized. Sometimes it looks that way on Saturday too sometimes. But they've just been over backwards to make things work for us. Russell was the big cloth manufacturer then, and they were big into Russell. We had our jerseys were Russell, our pants were Russell, and that was something that they did. I mean, they just accommodated us the very best that they could.
That's just the way James treated everybody, not just athletes, but you walked into the store for the first time, he didn't know you. Treated you just like he maybe would Coach Moore when he walked in the store. He was truly interested in you as a person, how he could help you out.
And there's no telling what all he and Beverly and Mark have done as far as helping people out.
They sponsored, high schools with their banner programs, t-ball teams, the youth soccer teams. He never forgot about the roots of this county, and you help those people out. They're lifelong customers. He was a big supporter of our community college. He wanted to help kids that couldn't go to a 4-year school but could get a start at community college and maybe transfer out or just get their 2-year degree. That meant a lot to him. All the way from youth supporting those programs and those kids all the way up to going into community college. He thought that was a great thing. So he just never lost the roots of Wilkes County and what that meant, even though he did branch his business out quite a bit. I think he realized and was a great businessman, understood that there was a need throughout the state. Those people got great service just as they did here. It was the hard work and the know-how and the realization that sporting goods across the state could be serviced by a company even from Wilkes County.
But I think America needs a good dose of the Cooks right now. And that's just the way I felt about them. The Cooks have left a legacy here.
We would now like to induct James Wilbur Cook into the 2020 class of the Wilkes County Hall of Fame. Accepting this honor on his behalf is his wife, Beverly Cook, and son, Mark Cook.
Good evening. On behalf of James's family, we'd like to thank you for this honor. He loved Wilkes, and he loved Wilkes County. Thank you again.
I'd just like to echo my mother's thank you and say that it's particularly sweet for my father to be inducted this year with this incredible group of people. It's hard to sum up a person's life in a couple minutes, and I figured I'd take the easy way out and talk about Cooks Incorporated, where I spent the majority of my time with my father. My sister, who couldn't be here today, is going to be able to add a few words about my father in the community. But in thinking about this, I realized that a few years ago, we did try to sum up a part of my father's life. Sometime after our 70th anniversary, we decided to try to define my father's guiding principle, his secret to his success, the thing that allowed him to be in business for so long, and his father before him. And we wanted to define this guiding principle so that we could continue to carry it forward, to make sure that we did what he did once he retired, not that anybody ever believed that he would fully retire. After a lot of conversations, some research, a lot of eye rolling on my father's part, we realized it wasn't my father's desire to be the greatest salesman or have the biggest market share. Definitely wasn't recognition, or even profits, at least not first. But it was just relationships. That my father believed that people were more important than numbers. If you took care of people, they'd take care of you. He built just lifelong friendships with some of our vendors. In fact, this morning, one of our reps that we've dealt with for years was in the store, and we got a little teary-eyed just talking about what I was going to say today. He built lifelong relationships with coaches that he called on, with people that just walked into the store. He absolutely loved his employees. They become a surrogate family, and he loved his community. He wasn't perfect, but he was a good man, and he tried to do the right thing and take care of the people around him. The other thing that came to mind as I was thinking about this is a card that I received from one of his coaches, one of his customers that became a lifelong friend. This is from Donnie Livengood, and I've kept this close. I'd never heard these words, you may have, but they were new to me and meant a lot. And it just simply says, James did not live his life to be noticed. He lived his life that his absence would be felt. And his absence will be felt by many for a long time. I couldn't say it any better, and I couldn't agree anymore. Thank you.
Thank you.
So after college, my dad and my mom got married and moved to Wilkes, and he came to work for his father over at Cook's, and he wanted to help contribute and grow the community. And so after adopting my brother and I and building a home, he started doing some coaching and started, he joined the Wiseman's Club and over at the YMCA and helped with some of the fundraising and things to do the redesign and add the racquetball courts and things like that. And then again, when they moved to their new location, he helped contribute to that. He also was a founding member of the Rotary Club's chapter in Wilkes County, and he also was on the board of the Health Foundation and was also on the board of the Hall of Fame. And then he contributed to the Wilkes Art Gallery and to the library and also to Ebenezer's Children's Home. And he helped establish, he established a scholarship over at the community college for the nursing program in memory of a family friend who passed away, Adrienne Necessary. And she worked at Cook's when she was a teenager. And so my dad was very fond of her and being good buddies with CH all of their lives growing up. So he felt that was a great way to honor her life. And so he also was contributed to St. Paul's Crisis Ministry. And that was actually a very dear to his heart organization that he enjoyed being a part of and felt that it was directly contributing to the community and those who were in need. And then they also set up, he also set up a foundation to help support these charitable organizations. And he felt that giving back was vital to his life and vital to the community. And so thank you very much for honoring him. We greatly appreciate it. And he was not a boastful man, so we humbly accept the honor. Thank you.
Life is always filled with challenges. How you deal with those challenges will in large part determine your life. Just ask Tammy Whitworth. Educated at Meredith College, Whitworth sought out a business career, learning the renovation field. She and her husband Todd purchased a Window World store in Wilmington, where Tammy learned the ins and outs of the business. It led to the purchase of the company and a dedication to the family approach that was already in place. Then, Tammy's husband passed away. Tammy Whitworth was left with a company, a family, and a decision about how to move forward.
Our mother said she never planned on being a CEO or leading a national company, but then life happens. The company spans America from its roots right here in Wilkes County. She said, I felt like I had to do everything possible to make Window World as successful as it could be.
She did, and at the same time, she became a major supporter of so many projects, including the St. Jude Children's Research Hospital and of the Wilkes County community.
When I hear the word Tammy Whitworth, I think of a leader. I think of a caring, giving person who has done a tremendous job in our community.
She's the type of person, she does not want recognition for what she does. She does it from her heart, and she does it because she has the ability to. And there again, she was raised with those values here in Wilkes County by her family, and she has passed it on, given those work ethics to their children, and they've done a tremendous job with them.
She's the strongest woman I know with everything that she's been through, breast cancer and losing my dad and all of that, and then still being such a beautiful, strong, and kind woman. It's incredible to me.
Of all the things that she's given to the residents, the county, the values that she has instilled in her company, all the people that she employs, and they're like family to her. That's the way that she runs her whole corporation. When they have their large meetings of all the Window World owners that come and have training, it's called the family reunion.
You don't have to look far to see her presence in Wilkes County. And I just think that this is where she chose to raise her family, and I think Wilkes County is home to her. And she's been an incredible citizen, and she's been an incredible corporate citizen.
Winterworld could not run without the people of Wilkes County. I mean, sure, you could take it somewhere else and fill different positions, but the actual people in those positions filled by Wilkes County residents, you could not replace.
As large as Winterworld is, it could be moved anywhere in the United States. But Tammy wants to keep it right here because this is where she grew up. This is where her values were instilled in her. This is where she wants to instill those values into her children. And this is where she can give back to Wilkes County. Tammy's not going to leave Wilkes County. This is her home, and this is where Winterworld will stay.
We would now like to induct Tammy Eller Whitworth into the 2020 class of the Wilkes County Hall of Fame.
Thank you to the Hall of Fame for this very undeserving award. My only advice for someone in my position, whether it's CEO or any other position you never saw yourself in, put on your big girl dress and be brave. Bob Marley's quote, "You never know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice," is my absolute truth. I'd like to thank my parents, who were always the perfect example for a child growing up. They both worked full-time jobs, but always found many, many hours to devote back to the church or the fire department or the high school athletic club or the hospital or wherever else needed. And when I became a single parent, they were the absolute best grandparents. We often found ourselves going in 3 different directions for the kids' sports or other activities. Thanks to my extended family and my Winterworld family for love and support along the way. Chris, who was my absolute rock during my breast cancer battle, also taught me that even stubborn, bitter hearts can love again. And my kids, Anna Grace, Wyatt, and Tucker, I love you all dearly and pray every day for you and that you too will choose to make a difference in this world. A special thanks to Phil Stevens, who quickly went from family friend to mentor when I became CEO of Winterworld after Todd's passing. Mostly, thanks to God for strength I didn't know I had, never-ending grace for my shortcomings, and the desire to leave this world a better place. Thank you.
I've seen sunsets on the ocean. I've seen the desert bloom. I've driven endless highways beneath the prairie moon. Yet the picture in my mind where I see when I think about it all is the color of the leaves in Carolina in the fall. The words of the Kruger brothers. They wrote about the region after falling in love with it, thanks in large part to their inspiration, Doc Watson. The brothers saw the multiple influences in Appalachian music, from the Cherokee to African Americans, Irish, French, German, and they fell in love with it. Yims and Uwe, along with Joel Landsberg, have kept that spirit of the Southern music alive. In fact, Yim says the music comes from deep inside. He says, all my dreams have been filled with sounds and music.
It began at an early age. Born and raised in Europe, the Kruger brothers learned instruments amongst a very musical family. And they played so well, they performed publicly before they were teenagers. And in 1997, they came to America, and within a few years, they settled in Wilkes County. Today, they are performing all over the world.
Well, the Kruger brothers, they give themselves to whatever they do, wherever they live, and they have been great citizens for the community.
Their legacy's already made.
Everybody knows who the Kruger brothers are, and they don't have to write the history. Everybody knows what the history is.
Of course, when they came to Wilkesboro, they were outsiders. But I will say that one family, and that's the Shepherd family, embraced them with open arms, invited them into their home, and basically they treated the Kruger brothers as a member of their family.
My husband went to the airport, picked them up, and that's how we got to know them. And they stayed with us the first festival, which was in 1997, and continued to stay with us while they were here. A friend of mine that I had met from Switzerland had sent me a tape of the Krugers. And, you know, they're just a three-piece band, but to hear them, you'd think it was 5 or 6 more people. But anyway, I decided I'd take the chance and book them and have them to come over to Merlefest, and they just loved it here in Wilkes County. They just, like I said, love Wilkes County, love the mountains. I think just this area kind of reminded them a little bit of Switzerland, their home. Even though they were here a lot during the year and having to go back and forth, they just kept saying, you know, we would like to live here. And of course, we encouraged that, and they just made so many new friends. So they just made the decision just to come to Wilkes County and live.
The Kruger brothers are intense. That comes through in their performances. They prepare ahead of time completely. You know, they want every single performance to be perfect. And that same intensity that they give to their work, their music, they give to all the areas of their lives.
That's how the doors open up to everybody, was their talent and their willingness to be a part of the community. And then on top of everything else, they built houses and settled here. And look, they had their own festival for years. And then they play at Merlefest every year. And so people come, they draw people in. So they've been a big influence to everybody in the county, plus brought people to the county to see them.
Each year when Carolina in the Fall has been held, there are people from all over the United States and several foreign countries that come for their music and the opportunity to interact with them one-on-one.
The people just opened up their arms to them and just loved them and their music, and they was just so friendly to them, and like I said, they were a group that you could talk to.
It's an amazing story to me how these 3 guys from, 2 from Switzerland, 1 from New York, look at Wilkes County and go, we're going to live there.
You know, they participate in all the community events, music-wise, and wherever there was a garage and somebody wanted to have a dinner and have some good desserts, those boys was there playing.
They're just good people to be around. I mean, they lift your spirits, make you feel good about yourself and about who they are. They have just an ongoing desire to continue in the trend of some legendary bluegrass entertainers. And regardless of where they performed their live music, they always called Wilkes County their home.
We would now like to induct the Kruger brothers into the 2020 class of the Wilkes County Hall of Fame.
Oh, wow. It's heavy.
Let me see. Oh, yeah. The blunt instrument.
It's I'm not touching
Wonderful.
it to put my fingerprints on there.
Right.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, thank you all so much. This is it's a great honor to be inducted to the Wilkes County Hall of Fame. You know, we came here 23 years ago, and when we first got here, we never think that we would live here or that we would, you know, be fortunate enough to make this place our home. But now we've been here for quite some time, and that we get honored with this award means a lot more to us than you might imagine. So we want to really thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And I think we can say thank you to you with what we do best, sing a song, play some music. Thank you so much. We love you.
Thank you.
All the places I have been to, all the things that I had seen since I left my home to wander when I was just 15. Oh, the traveling was easy, still sometimes the road got rough, and by the time I turned 35, I thought I'd seen enough. But for me to settle down a while was not what God had planned. So one more time I left my home with my suitcase in my hand. And the journey took me far and wide, across the deep blue sea. And now I know since I've been there where I was meant to be. And I've seen sunsets on the ocean, I've seen the desert bloom, drove the endless highways beneath the prairie moon. Yet the picture in my mind I see, think about it all, is the color of the leaves, Carolina. Songs Doc had taught to me, and the things that he would sing about I never dreamed I'd see. In the hills of Carolina, folks have opened up the door. For the first time in my life, I'm not a stranger anymore. And I've seen sunsets on the ocean, I've seen the desert blue, drove the endless highways beneath the prairie moon. Yet the picture in my mind I see, think about it all, is the color of the leaves, Carolina, in the fall. About it all is the color of the leaves, Carolina, in the fall.
Oh, thank you once again for this wonderful award and being inducted into the Wilkes County Hall of Fame. What an honor. And I hope that we get to see you again here in Wilkes County very soon, and we can properly say hello to each other. You all take care. Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 8 newest members of the Wilkes County Hall of Fame. And though it is virtual, there's a lot of pride all across our county tonight, not just in the families and individuals honored, but in all of us for honoring this heritage and history that has been built right here in our community. Over the next several weeks and months, we hope you'll visit the Wilkes County Board of Education office and visit the Stone Center, where tonight we officially unveil the Wilkes County Hall of Fame display case for this class. There you'll find mementos and memories about each one of our inductees that tell their life story. It's a special way for all of us to learn a little bit more about the culture of our county. And don't forget that the Wilkes County Hall of Fame is not only to recognize our individuals in this community, it's not only a way to give our students people they can look up to and see what their future might hold, but it's a way that we can fund special projects throughout the county school system, those that can't be funded by the state or by the school system itself, to help teachers inspire that dream that lives within inside a student. So if you've not done so already, please consider making a gift to the Wilkes County Hall of Fame. These grants are awarded each year to help teachers do the work that they do in our school system. Thank you for being a part of tonight's virtual celebration of our Hall of Fame, and we look forward to being back in this room next year as normal as we celebrate another class of the Hall of Fame. Thank you for your support of Wilkes County students.
All right, what fun that was. What a great production. We had a wonderful time. Now, we hope to see you down the road. Y'all take care. And we're going to take you out with a little piece called Carolina Dawn.